Good evening and welcome everybody. This is the CEO Playbook panel. We're going to be talking about how to build customer loyalty and trust and then scale it through leadership. So I'm Tony Crisp. I build brands and build trust and loyalty through my agency, CrispX Brand Agency. I'm also the president of Tech Coast Venture Network, where we help OC founders get funding. My job tonight is to make sure that you all get value and keep my panel on time. So that being said, I'd like to introduce our first panel member, Michael Gifford from Splitero. He is the co-founder and CEO of Splitero. I'm going to introduce him a little bit more. Hang on. For context, Splitero is a rapidly growing fintech platform that provides homeowners with a lump sum of cash in exchange for a share of their home's future value. To give you an idea of their scale, they recently secured over $300 million in capital to expand their operations, creating financial lifelines where traditional banking falls short. His approach to transparent, disciplined underwriting is setting a new standard for consumer trust in a highly volatile market. Recently, I saw this too, you were recently awarded CEO of the Year by the San Diego Business Journal. Let's welcome Michael to the panel. Okay, next is Ricky Joshi, co-founder and chief strategy officer at Saatva. Saatva is a premier direct-to-consumer luxury mattress and home furnishings brand. They have scaled to well over $600 million in annual revenue and over 35 owned stores by putting the customer experience first. Under his leadership, Saatva has proven that an unmatched post-purchase experience is the ultimate driver for lifelong brand loyalty and organic growth. He is also working on a consumer fintech startup, which maybe he'll talk about today. Let's welcome Ricky to the panel. Next is Gui Peres, the CEO of Ergomotion. Ergomotion is the world's largest manufacturer of adjustable bed bases and smart sleep technology. To put their scale in perspective, they have sold over 10 million adjustable beds globally across 40 countries. Gui leads the charge in blending wellness and technology, putting health-focused hardware into the most private space in our homes, our bedroom. Let's welcome Gui. And finally, anchoring our panel is Jordan Glazier, founder and CEO of Wildfire Systems. Wildfire powers white label cashback and rewards infrastructure for companies like Visa, Citibank, and the Royal Bank of Canada, helping brands to create seamless loyalty experiences at a massive scale. Jordan's business sits behind the scenes of millions of consumer transactions every day. Let's welcome all the panelists. So I'll be breaking apart the talk into three different parts. The first one will be talking about trust, how we build trust. The second one is about how we earn loyalty. And the last one is how do we take that trust and loyalty and scale it through leadership. Let's start with Michael at Splitero. So tapping in home equity is a high anxiety decision. How do you build early trust at some of those very first touch points?
Yeah, we kind of have a unique product where we're not only giving someone a large sum of cash, but it also has to do with their house, which is a very intimate transaction. So you have to build trust out of the gates. We did that by really trying to make as transparent a process as possible so they can understand how we work and how we do what we do, but also take all of the complicated, say, mortgage, fintech jargon and put it into plain language. Alongside of that, we tried to take all industry best practices from very well-known industry like the mortgage industry. Most people know how to get a loan for a house or a HELOC, and then use all those best practices around our product as well. So kind of two steps from the start, but we still do a ton of consumer education at the top of our funnel. So having licensed loan originators on the phones to be able to explain not only our product but other products really helps build trust from the start of the process.
Excellent, thank you. Talking about the home, I know, Ricky, you're dealing with a luxury brand, high-end products like mattresses and other home furnishings that are, when originally were purchased, sight unseen. How do you end up building trust so a consumer will end up clicking that buy button? for such a product?
Yeah, it was actually, I think it was one of the more interesting things that we did. So, we were one of the first direct-to-consumer brands, I'd say, in a high AOV category. So we predate Casper, we predate Purple, we predate Warby Parker. We're incepted in 2010. And so, outside of like Bonobos and a couple others, which were kind of more impulse buy purchases, really people weren't spending that kind of money online in a meaningful way before us. And, that was a major thing we had to tackle. So number one, validation was huge. Having logos on your website, as seen in Better Housekeeping, all that stuff. In the early days, we had to do a lot of that. We would have reviews. We would literally email every single one of our customers to get a review. Every review we could get all over the place. We had reviews on our website really early on before that was as common as it is now. So at every stage, we really, really were looking for that external validation. I think that was very, very helpful. Also, a lot of external review sites. We seeded, like a lot of reviewers to actually, review on YouTube. So we really also kind of really fill up our search. So when someone searched for Saatva, there'd be like 15 articles. So, I actually remember in the early days, I had to hack it. Because no one wanted to cover us. So I had a friend, and I said, who worked, kind of did a freelance stuff for Huffington Post, and kind of bribed him to post an article about us, and joined the Forbes Leadership Council or something, so I could write an article to sneak myself in there, and but surely eventually we started to get press, and it started to all work out.
And just so people understand, what is the AOV of your product?
So right now it's about $2,400.
Yeah. Okay, excellent, thank you. Well, speaking of the bedroom, something that our next panelist knows intimately, was when we're talking about, let's say AI going into the bedroom, it can feel a little potentially intrusive, right? How do you keep that smart wellness technology trustworthy in such a personal and private space?
Yeah, that's a great question, because there is a consumer sentiment of being the big brother, of being listened to in my bedroom, and the bedroom itself is one of the favorite places for consumers in general to keep electronics free, AI free. So how do we bridge that gap, right? Well, first off, we have to try to establish that with trust, that we're HIPAA compliant and all the compliances that we have to abide by when we're tracking your vitals. There's that part of it. So there's the compliancy side of it, but there's also the making sure we set expectations right. What is the product going to do? What is it exactly going to track? Where's the data going to go? We set the expectations very clearly with the customer, so they know exactly what's going to happen with their data. And so far, it's been okay. We haven't had a lot of pushback, but it certainly is something that consumers are very wary about.
That being said, after trust, you want to build loyalty. So, Jordan from Wildfire, you're dealing with millions of transactions behind some of the world's largest brands. So, as you're powering these loyalty programs behind the scenes for some of these world's biggest brands, what are the friction points you're seeing now that are eroding some of that customer loyalty and trust?
Thank you, Tony. So, when you think about, particularly in financial services, the switching costs for a consumer have gotten so much easier. Digital banks have arrived that have with low fees, no fees. Banks are competing against each other, not for their core offerings, because those are homogenous across banks, but they've had to shift into value-added services. That's been a key player, whether throughout the financial services stack, whether it's the card issuers, the card networks, the banks, and everything in between. And so what you see as a good parallel, for example, is Capital One Shopping that deployed that service as a loyalty play in order to be the benefactor. When we think about how we interact for our banks with their customers, we want to position them as a benefactor of goodness in people's daily lives. Because when a consumer thinks of their bank, it's a utility, but it's a very trusted. Speaking about trust and loyalty, it's the most trusted part of your life. When you ask consumers the question, do you want to save money and earn money when you shop? Like 100% of them say yes. Then you ask them the question, from where would you like to receive that service? And nearly 80% of them say, I want it from my existing card, my existing bank, And then we ask the question, why? And the answer is resoundingly because that's who I trust, and therefore that's who I want that type of loyalty program to come from, because there's so much data involved. It becomes a companion for a shopping journey, and in the same way that you're able to listen into the bedroom, we're able to observe consumers' entire shopping journeys and not just where they go, but what's in the cart and how they pay for it. So it needs to be a trusted experience, and then driving that loyalty by rewarding consumers and giving them cash back, and especially in the economy that we've all been living in the last years. When inflation is up by 5% and you can help someone save 5% cash back on their purchases, that's actually a big deal and meaningful for people. So ultimately, we're helping people save money and earn money when they shop, which helps them afford their life and keep pace with the needs of their family.
Thank you. So moving over to Ricky, so mattresses purchases happen like once every decade. So when we're talking about loyalty, I'm not going to Starbucks and getting my coffee every single day. How do you build loyalty when the sales cycle is so long?
What's interesting is a lot of categories, they almost it's like planned obsolescence. So the product is never really built to last forever. We build ours to last forever. I mean, it's actually pretty interesting. I got my own bed. It's about 10 years old. And I was a return came in for like a perfect bed came or a canceled order or something, and I was talking to my logistics guy. He's like, "Oh, by the way, Ricky, if you want to upgrade a latex hybrid," and I'm like, "You know what? Like my bed's still good, 10 years old." And we always built it that way. And I think one thing is interesting, but it was never really about replacing that bed. It was about the fact that we're growing with our customer, right? So these people who will, maybe end up in a 1-bedroom house or 1-bedroom condo will then upgrade to a 2-bedroom house and maybe a 4-bedroom house throughout the life cycle. So that expounds dramatically.
They probably need some of Gui's products.
Yeah, and that's true. We got to work together, and so they're buying, and we're growing with them, and then also they're our best referrals. I mean, there's nothing better than having a great product, because word of mouth just goes really, really far. We oftentimes, so often, I wish I had the numbers on this, but family members, friends. I mean, it just is a self-perpetuating cycle. We also then added a lot of product as well. So as we grew, we started off as a 1-mattress brand, became a 2-mattress brand. Now we have eight mattresses. We also then we started in soft goods, bedding, sheets. We really wanted to have the whole bedroom experience and that like beautiful hotel experience. And then now we're in furniture, and you can buy a rug and a nightstand and towels. So you expand in different directions.
I'm curious, is your fintech, if you could talk about it, linked to what you learned over at Saatva?
It's so funny. So I was actually speaking with an investor today. So what I'm building is basically a Claude meets Ameritrade. So basically an LLM-driven cross-asset platform that allows you to basically go in and trade crypto and straight into a yield product or buy an ETF or a municipal bond or whatever. And so, for example, if the war with Iran ended, you could buy a bunch of energy stocks and just with an LLM and just places the orders, sell half your portfolio if you want, things like that. So a super advanced kind of giving hedge fund-like capability to the average Joe, and also those sort of research capabilities. So that's what I'm kind of building. But there's a lot of analogs to the mattress category. You're talking about adding value to a consumer over time by eliminating friction. So you keep the customer longer by building a better product. Acquisition is actually very similar as well. So it's the things that you learn. One thing that I've learned is that I consider myself a growth marketer more than anything else. People are always wondering, are you going to a mattress conference? I'm like, no, I'm going to an internet marketing conference. I'm an internet marketer first. So at the end of the day, that's my trade. And so I don't care whether I'm selling Fintech or fans or light bulbs or whatever it is. It's find a way to build a better product and something that people want, and I'll market it.
Excellent. So what I'm hearing there is add more products for upselling in between the sales cycle.
That's also a massive factor, right? Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about. So we talked a little bit about trust. Talked a little bit about the loyalty. Now, what's the leadership behind scaling that trust and loyalty? Let's go to Gui from Ergomotion. So you have now scaled this massive global manufacturing enterprise. I think you said to 40 countries. What is something you could do that's operational and non-negotiable to maintain that trust and loyalty as you're expanding globally at such a scale?
Yeah, correct. So to give you an idea of the scale, about 2 million adjustable beds are sold in America and a year, and Ergomotion is about half of that. So we're producing about 1.1 million adjustable beds a year. So that's big scale, right? That's and we didn't get there overnight. It took us 20 years to get there. But some of what I would say leadership-wise is making sure your team understands not only what your customers need, and we have a lot of B2B customers, and that's our core competency is dealing with the B2B. But within that, so what solutions are you going to offer them that only you can offer? So we found that vertical integration and bringing in-house capabilities was very important, because we didn't want to be reliant on third-party suppliers or third-party fabricators or whatever. We brought all of that in-house in the 3 factories that we have globally. We have one in China, one in Vietnam, and one in Mexico. So we're highly vertically integrated. That helps, and by being really good at the supply chain side of things, we were able to weather some of the supply chain storms we had. So again, going back to your question, leadership-wise, we took the decision to be vertically integrated, to be really good at supply chain. And then the one that I think is even more important is quality. So we are obsessed with quality, because if there's no quality, there's no product. You know that, right? Especially you need to have, as soon as you have a quality issue, your brand will be tarnished. It's very difficult to come out of that. So within that vertical integration, in-house capabilities we brought in, we put a huge effort on quality. We have quality labs in all of our factories, and we make sure we include our customers in the process of the quality control, so they see the true quality we have to offer. And yeah, again, if you consider those 2 things, the vertical integration, the obsessive quality control that we have, I think it really allows you to scale. It allows you to grow the business to the scale that we got, which is about 50% market share.
How are you managing it in 40 different countries as far as maintaining that same level of consistency? Right? I think Starbucks is one of the ones you look at for consistency globally. What are you doing to maintain that consistency?
Yeah, it's interesting because we make the same bed pretty much everywhere, but in 130 different sizes. So like the US, we have queen, twin, full. We have like 5 sizes in the US. In Europe, they have like 80. So we need to make the same bed in many different sizes. So that's a logistical and supply chain nightmare. But within that complexity, to keep quality and to keep the consistency of it, I don't know a silver bullet answer to that, but it certainly took us a long time to get there. So it was a lot of trial and error, but again, keeping the focus on the quality, I think, is key to delivering a product that is the same in any one of those markets.
Yeah, I remember my professor in business school was consulting for Starbucks, and he had his SOP standards that he was using for Starbucks. Okay, let's see. Let me move over to Michael from Splitero. So the real estate market is going to it's constantly fluctuating. There's a high dynamic range. How do you scale without compromising when the market is down through all those fluctuations?
Yeah, we're at a really interesting time because we are exposed to both the real estate market as well as the mortgage market. So right now you have homeowners with a ton of equity in their house, right? Their average person comes to us with like 60% equity in their house, and it's really difficult for them to access that. Where we're at right now, kind of in the cycles, everybody seems like prices are high, and if the mayor builds all the houses he's going to, then those prices will go down. We'll see, who knows. But what we think a lot about is our exposure to that, right? And so how do we allow people to access as much capital as they need? Because as we kind of alluded to, times are tough. People need to sustain cost of living. They need the equity that they built up in their house. And so we look at our exposure rates of that, but it's all-time lows, right? So after we extend funds, you're talking about an average homeowner that still has roughly 40% equity in their house. So they've come to us. We've given them $130,000, and then they've gone to solve their debt problems or sustain cost of living or pay for college or whatever they're doing with it. But it's still extremely low compared to where the market's at. And so we think about that. We think about the entire portfolio. It's about, right now, probably about $1 billion worth of houses. We'll hopefully put out another $1 billion of capital this year. But we're constantly looking at all the metrics in our portfolio to see what things are doing.
And how about maintaining loyalty with those customers? Like once they come to you the first time, how do you keep that customer loyal for their second HELOC?
Yeah, we focus a lot on velocity, right? So it's the customer experience. When somebody comes and says, I need capital to solve whatever their need is, how fast can we go from application to funding? So as he was talking about kind of a quality metric for us is that velocity, so that speed. Everything that we think about with our engineering and product teams is how can we do it faster, right? If somebody says, I need money because I have a problem, how quickly can we give it to them? And so that leads to a very good customer experience day one. They'll come back to us every, not 10 years, every 3 to 5 years. But when you give somebody 6 figures of capital, they don't make a monthly payment on it to us. That really like changes their life. So then if they have a good experience with us, they're going to tell everybody else that they know that has a homeowner. So we have a lot of organic that comes back to us because we focus on, from day one, like let's explain everything thoroughly and then get them their capital as fast as possible.
Excellent. And then Jordan, for you, you're sitting behind the scenes, behind brands like maybe Splitero or other ones. How do you, as you're scaling through all these multiple organizations, multinational, massive organizations, how do you maintain that quality and over that scale and through all the different types of customers you're supporting?
So we're a small but mighty team. When you think about it, we're doing millions of transactions, but at the same time, we're about 70 people. And we've got scores of financial services partners and others for whom we're providing loyalty platforms. So it starts with a spectacular technology platform. It really has to, we're working with over 50,000 merchants worldwide, handling millions of transactions and splitting rewards down to fractions of a penny. And making sure that consumers have a spectacular experience with the ability to get easy customer service and inquiries and resolution to those inquiries. It's a high velocity business, but we've got it dialed in because the technology platform itself continues to be so tuned to the needs of that flywheel. So we've invested really heavily into the intricacies of the technology to be able to handle that volume. It's a very engineering forward and product development forward team and software product. Our clients are as mostly banks and card issuers have zero tolerance for flaws. Not just because they're tough customers, but they're highly regulated organizations, and they're so if we mess up, which we try not to, which rarely happens. No, if mistakes by us aren't, it's not about did the consumer get their $2. It's whether it's if the regulators have an issue. So we have to make sure that we're deploying our platform with the same rigor as a financial services product. And so we focus on compliance. We focus on systems and processes to handle most of the needs of getting that right, with small but mighty teams that sit on top of that to keep an eye on it.
Perfect. That kind of leads me into the next series of questions. So AI is everywhere. All of us are thinking about AI, trying to figure out what we do, how we manage it, how we implement it. If we can go from, let's go back down the row. Tell us, in May 2026, what is something that is measurable in terms of an AI workflow that you're seeing in your organization that's working that you can share with the founders today?
We have every person on our team. We have a full-timer whose job is going throughout the organization and helping each person identify their workflows and build their own tools and teaching them how to build tools to streamline their own workflows. And since we started doing that, I'd say about a year ago, our business continues to double and triple over time, and with the same or less headcount. So we're making everyone not just more efficient and effective, but they're also having fun using the new tools and applying it to their own workflows and being able to write down their own apps and bots and so forth. It's been exhilarating to watch it.
And that's with the zero error tolerance, right? As you mentioned.
No, well, that's for their own personal workflows. They're not building the external. They're not doing financial operations.
Oh, got it. Excellent. All right, thank you for sharing that. Guy, same question.
Yeah, so similar to Jordan, we have a similar process in place to help with our workflows and like on the operations side of the business. So we're being relatively bullish on the operations side, but we're being cautious on the consumer-facing side, on the product side. We haven't implemented too many AI tools on the consumer-facing. But on the operational side, like to give you a real-world example, we found this agent, I believe the name is Cardage, that helps us with order processing. As I mentioned, we have 130, sizes we have thousands, if not tens of thousands of SKUs. And sometimes some of these orders to process are very complex. And a specific customer that we knew, we spent about 60 minutes to process one PO. We implemented this Cardage agent, and it went from 60 minutes to 2 minutes. So that's a huge difference. So it actually makes you more efficient. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you, Ricky.
Yeah, our customer service reps, I think, is probably the biggest unlock. So we've integrated a couple tools that essentially allow them to, in real time, answer questions. And these are, people who are on the phone, on chat. And actually, we have an AI chat as well. But I think this customer service has gotten so much more efficient because of AI. Also, being able to integrate it instantly to do all order lookup. I mean, order history, all those things are just massively improved. We're a much cleaner organization because of it, and a leaner organization, to be honest, because of it. And then we've implemented Claude throughout the organization. So, everyone from our data scientists to our marketers, decisions get made so much quicker. Price optimization, all those things. So, organization-wide, everyone's using it.
Excellent. Michael, you share?
Yeah. Trying not to echo the panel going last on this one and stuff. Let's see. So to use our product, we have a homeowner-facing portal where they will upload their driver's license through Plaid or another vendor, mortgage documents, pictures of their cats, anything like that. Our team then would manually, have to process all of that. And then as they go through the process, we get escrow and title paperwork. All that comes into our systems. So we've built an AI OCR engine where it can read a document. It reads 10 or 12 different documents, which would take my team, half hour to a few hours, depending on if it's difficult trust documents or a title report that has a lot of encumbrances or something like that. And then it takes all that information and puts it into Salesforce. So our teams spend way less time looking at actual physical documents that have been uploaded or documents that have been uploaded, by mistake if it's somebody's cat.
Are token costs an expense item that are starting to concern you at all? Or
not yet?
Not yet.
They're about to.
They're about to.
Yeah. Claude, for example, we've been using our a $200 a month subscription to test some pretty sophisticated software development technology, and I believe that they're sunsetting that plan for that use at the end of June. And we're estimating that instead of $200, it could be north of $100,000 if we kept using it at the pace we have been using it so far on a monthly basis.
Are you considering moving some of that inference from the cloud down to your desktop and bring it local on premise? Is that a conversation you guys are having, or not yet?
We're looking at how to load balance that and optimize it from a cost perspective, but also, that was throwing a lot at it. You have to also, you'll start making choices about what you actually have at code. That was basically an all-you-can-eat sushi buffet. So we were eating everything we could. We'll get more selective about what projects we put through it, depending on the cost.
Okay. I'm going to move out 5 years from now instead of focusing on today and AI. And I'll start with Michael. Thank you. So our founders and CEOs, we're always trying to deal with limited resources, trying to figure out how we allocate it to build brand and still get the performance we need from our marketing team. What's the best investment founders and CEOs and leaders can make today that will bring us value and resonate 5 years from now? in terms of brand, trust, and loyalty?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think there's a few categories that we concentrate on. Certainly talent. Like even if you are in an organization that's not super well capitalized, like talent just goes so far from an early stage to keep you focused and really build scalable procedures. It takes special talent to look at where is the business going to be in a couple of years if we're only doing X number of units now, but we're going to be doing Y number of units then. Like, how's that actually going to work? And so you're not spending so much time and resources changing workflows and systems. So I would probably say talent.
Ricky?
This is like going to be not helpful at all to anyone in this room, but just start off with that. But opening up our stores has been, I think, the biggest and best investment we've made. It's such a validator for our brand. It lights up markets, like our store at UTC. I mean, I can go and we're so sophisticated with our advertising, so I'll market then in zip codes around that store. Now about, like, I'd say 80-something% of our revenue is within like 50 miles of a store location. And every time we unlock a new store, we just boom. And it's become the magnet for all of our advertising spend that can be allocated in a geographic manner. And so that's just been a phenomenal thing, and we continue to do it carefully. One thing that's about stores is interesting is it's a very data-driven. It's an art and a science to open stores. I think one thing is also just interesting for just common for knowledge is that opening up stores, it's not like you like rent an apartment. So, and I think that was almost my conception, right? Like, oh yeah, I'm just going to go to UTC and they're just going to like let me open my store. Like, hell no. They're getting into stores is like getting into a mall or like a town center is like getting into Harvard. Like, you have to like try really hard and really have a great reputation. You have to build that credibility. In the beginning, no one wanted to talk to us. We opened up a store in New York City. And Boston, Newbury Street with individual landlords, worked up from there. Then finally a couple town centers took a risk on us. Then it was a domino effect. UTC was actually our biggest unlock because once I got UTC, then all of a sudden people are like, oh, these guys are for real. Then I got the domain in Austin. I got, Merrick Park in Florida and all sorts of things. But it really was a kind of a battle, and it's been so fun to watch because now we have scale with it. Now we have our systems in place, and so by building this physical presence, I really feel like we're building long-lasting legacy, and it's really working. And we're doing it again in a very smart way. And so I see a lot of people kind of run and operate stores poorly. They're not sophisticated in how they choose locations. They're not sophisticated in how they run it from a systems perspective. They're not sophisticated in how they design and develop them. And so anyway, we are, and it's why it's working for us. And our sales per foot is kind of one of the highest in the entire town center. We're like at $1,500 per foot volume, which is tremendous. And we do it cheaply. I think one thing that's also really interesting is my store reps that are in the store. This is something we figured out over COVID. They're actually my call center reps. So when there's no one in the store, they're sitting there just manning the phones like anyone else. So I've actually disaggregated my entire workforce around the country. So whenever anyone quits in my main office, we never rehire them. Our office in the New York area was at 1,300 customer service reps. Now it's down to like 70. And now they're just nationally dispersed. And even better, when someone calls in with a San Diego zip code or area code to the store, they'll most likely be routed to the San Diego location. And the person there will say, hey, I'm Jim, whatever. And, if you want to try out the bed, by the way, we also have a store at UTC. So we thought about this every direction.
Was there a retail model that you followed? Was there a brand that you saw as your retail role model?
So much of this company's like been doing it all ourselves. Like, I don't know any other company that does customer service reps in store. So that's an original thought. One thing, like in terms of benchmarking, and I do follow I know that like I want to be close to Restoration Hardware. Wherever Restoration Hardware is, they pick good locations. Shade Store, it's kind of in our industry. They pick good locations. So I've definitely followed the footsteps in terms of selection. But in some cases, we've invented a lot too.
Guy?
Yeah, not to sound repetitive, but I agree with Michael that talent is extremely important. And when you think about talent through trial and error, I've learned that you can teach skill, but you cannot teach attitude. So you can have people with the right attitude working for you, because sometimes you get people that have the right skill, but they're not a good cultural fit, or they just have a bad attitude. So talent is very important. But so I'm not so repetitive in saying the same thing Michael said. I would say also, having a narrow focus on what your core competency is, I think is very important for long-term growth, because you can scale that, right? So as you said, you're not a mattress guy, you're an online sales, online marketing expert, right? So then if that's what you focus on what you're good at, you can expand it to some adjacencies and keep scaling your business. Like you said, you're selling, side tables and rugs now, right? We're doing something similar where our core competency as a company is to offer the best adjustable bed solutions for large distributors. And within that, now we're in the warehousing business. Now we're in the customer service business for the retailers that we sell to. So all of that, having that focus on what you're good at and scaling that, I think is the pathway to continue to grow as the years go by.
Could you give us a tip on how you find that cultural fit and is there anything you do in your process to find that attitude that you mentioned?
It's going to sound kind of brutal, but it's slow to hire, fast, quick to fire. So you take some time before you hire someone, get to know them, interview them as much as you can. Take them out to lunch, ask them about their personal life within the confines of what's legally acceptable. What sports do you like? Stuff like that. Get to know them, because once they're in your team, I take it very seriously that once someone's in my team, I want to make sure they work, right? They're becoming part of the work family, right? So you need to make sure that you're picking the right people. It's impossible to do it perfectly, but if you take your time to interview people and get to know them and not just be quick to hire, I think that's part of the secret, I would say.
Great, thank you. And Jordan?
I'll echo the talent thing, but it's a derivative of that, which is we're as a B2B to C business, our clients, really, we have to focus on our business partners. And your original question was, how do you build trust, for 5 years out? We build incredibly close relationships with our B2B partners. And especially in any industry, but especially the industries that we're serving, particularly financial services, it's a total revolving door. If I look back at partners that we had at one of our card issuer partners, 5 years ago, that entire team has moved on, but they stay within the industry. They've gone to other places and brought us in there. So building trusted relationships with them is critical because of that mobility throughout the industry. The way to do that is, what you were just saying, which is, but not from a hiring perspective, same thing from a business perspective, where, work is the predominant, focus of our day, our waking hours. So you might as well do it with people that you like and enjoy the company with. And so, it's not about whining and dining. It's about truly enjoying the people that you work with and getting to know them and letting them know you and getting a view into who you are as a person. And then we also, from a client success team, like our client success team, I'd say the hiring criteria there in order to over deliver with our partners is it is a team full of like type A OCD people. They are so detail oriented, so on top of everything, predict people's needs, so that we become a pleasure to work with, trusted, reliable, way out ahead of everything, and that way, and that plus the mobility in the industry, our reputation precedes us as great to work with and reliable and an unlock for our partners' business needs.
Fantastic. What I keep hearing is trust, loyalty, and scaling it. It seems to be based in the people, not just giving your customers that wonderful experience from the beginning, all the way through the end, but also about your internal team, picking the right people and treating them the right way. So the panel, you've brought us a lot of valuable insights. You shared some great tips with us. Let's give our panel a round of applause. Thank you for joining us tonight. So this ends our panel. Panelists, please join me to the VIP room after this. And if anyone wants to take a photo with the panelists, we have a couple minutes, and then we'll be heading out. Thank you, everyone.